so that I can tell you about how I was diagnosed with cancer. And why I'm doing this is because, Woojin just cooked some delicious food, and I'm still a little full. So why I'm doing this is because I'm trying to extend a friendship relationship to the people that I'm in relationship with on social media. And in order for me and you to be friends, I think that it adds value to our relationship and our friendship by me sharing with you just like the experiences that I have had to be Woojin's waving at me. So because I want to be friends with you, I'm just sharing with you the experiences I've had and being authentic about it and trying to be vulnerable about it so you get to know me. So I'm telling you about how I was diagnosed with cancer. So if I think all the way back from the very start of it, I was living in Los Angeles with my wife, going where I still go to art school at Otis. And I remember we lived in a little apartment in Altitude, and I had this like small lump on my right testicle, right? So I'm starting to geek about it. It's small at the time though, and it's going on and it's going on and it's going on. And after a couple of months of having it and digging in my pocket all the time, thinking to myself, is it getting bigger? I went to the doctor. So I go to the doctor in San Clemente, doctor I've always been going to since I was in high school or whatever. And I go in there, I'm like, look, doctor, I got a lump on my right testicle. I'm tripping out about it. I'm worrying about it. I'm praying about it out of fear because I'm scared because I think I might have cancer. I've been Googling and stuff, and it's like lumps on your testicle possibly have cancer, right? That's not what you want. So I go in there, I share that with him. He's like, all right, well, unbutton your pants. Now, this was the first of like hundreds of times that I would have some doctor fondling my situation, right? So anyways, he feels it out. It's a very strange situation. He's like rubbing this like, cancerous lump on my testicle, and he's like, seems fine. I wouldn't worry about it. These things are pretty common. If it gets any bigger, come back to me. But for now, I don't think it's any problem. So, I'm like, oh man, I'm relieved. Reflecting on it, I realized that I was sick all along, and it was just false relief. But anyway, so I go home and I tell Woojin, and she's like, oh, I thought so. I didn't think it was too bad. I'm glad, right? I'm just so happy that you don't have cancer, right? So then it keeps going, and I keep having this lump, and it doesn't go away. It's not getting any smaller. I'm constantly playing in my mind, like in a paranoid way, like, is it getting bigger? Is it getting smaller? Is it getting bigger? Is it getting smaller? And I'm sharing this with Woojin, and I remember like laying in my bed, searching and just getting like hot and sweaty and overcome with like anxiousness, which is weird because I don't even get anxious. Look at me, I'm talking to random people. I'm not an anxious guy. But I would sit there and Google and like sweat and freak out and freak out in my own head. And after doing that for a while, Woojin started telling me, you should go see the doctor again. You should go see the doctor again. You should see another doctor. You should get more feedback. And I was like, but he said I'm fine. I don't want to go back. I don't want to find out. He said I'm fine. But all along I'm getting more and more kind of scared and fearful and praying out of fear, not praying from faith, but like, oh, I pray I don't have cancer. Oh, I pray I don't have cancer. Because at this time only me and Woojin had really known about it. I didn't really share it with anybody else. And then it got to the point where it started getting bigger, and I can remember literally standing and talking to people and just like touching a lump on my testicle, being like, in a conversation, but thinking to myself, in my mind, is it getting bigger? Is it getting bigger? Did it get smaller? And constantly doing it. I'm talking, I would check hourly, every single day to see what was going on, and it freaked me out. And Woojin's like, you gotta go see the doctor again. So I go to the doctor, I share with them all the stuff I'm, got going on, and I'm freaking out about it and so forth. And he's like, all right, well, let's have a CT scan done. And, oh no, an ultrasound. Lujan just piped in, it is an ultrasound. So I got an ultrasound. So I do that, and I get the ultrasound, because basically with the doctor situation, you got to go to one doctor to get to another doctor. You can't just go straight to a doctor. One's got to send you to the next, and they only send you to the next if they think there's probable, reason for you to go there. So I go get the ultrasound. This lady, is gel situation, cold, ray gun thing, swirling around, looking at some screen. She doesn't seem very, I can almost feel that she thinks something's wrong. But anyways, I'm just chatting with her and being kind with her, trying to be as happy and kind to all the doctor people that I ran into as I went through this situation. And then I leave there, and I'm able to then schedule an appointment with what do you call it? What was my major doctor that handles? What do you call that kind of doctor? Oh my gosh, he's my major type of doctor. Anyways, urologist?
Yeah.
Urologist, my urologist. So I get to go see a urologist. And my appointment, I remember, is at 3 o'clock. Me and Woojin were living in LA. And she was pushing me to see a doctor. She's like, you got to go to a better doctor. You can't go to this small town doctor. You got to get it to the doctor. So praise the Lord for my wife, who really drove me to go get another opinion, because I would have kept avoiding it until it spread in my brain probably. And I get an appointment at 3. I come down to San Clemente for the day. Woojin is in LA. I come down and I'm hanging out, and I'm going to my doctor's appointment at 3. I get a call from the doctor's office, and they're like, hey, you need to come in at 12. And at first I'm like, that's good. And then I'm like, why do they want me to go in there early? So anyways, I go into the doctor early at Orange, whatever hospital over there in Mission Viejo over near the mall. And I see this guy. He pulls up, he puts my things on the thing, my scans or whatever, and he's like, I think you have testicular cancer. And on the spot, I got super lightheaded, and I'm lightheaded, turning white. And he's like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I just need to stand up. He's like, no, lay down. I'm like, no, I just need to stand up. He's like, no, lay down. So he lays me down, and I fully just faint, just from, I don't know how that happens. You hear news and you faint. It makes no sense. I don't know what the correlation is there, but that's what I did. I just fainted. And he laid me down, and he's like, all right, just breathe. And I was coming back to it. And I'm like, okay, so what do we do? And after coming back to it, I had a small, almost sense of relief, because I was so worried and anxious and geeking out about it for so long. And then the doctor confirmed what I had thought, and I was like, all right, well, what do we do about it? And how soon can we do it? He's like, well, I need to remove your right testicle. And I was like, all right, how soon can we do it? He's like, well, we can do it tomorrow at 5 a.m. And I'm like, perfect. I'm ready. So I got signed up for 5 a.m. I went and did some blood work. I called my wife. Woojin was in LA. She drove down. We prayed. She immediately encouraged me and was like, it's a blessing. We'll get through this. It's going to be good. And I automatically adapted that attitude too. I was like, all right, let's do this. I'm ready. We're going in tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. and we're making this happen. Not knowing at that time that the cancer had spread. So Woojin drives down. I remember calling, I think I called either Pastor Matt or Pastor Adam at Delray Church, or texted him. I remember getting in contact with one of them. Woojin drove down. I called my family, and they prayed for me, and were in shock, of course. It's crazy. You think nothing's going to get you till it does. And then the next person I remember calling is Luke. I called Luke. I had just got a Poke Bowl over at the Poke Bowl department in San Clemente, Kalamata. And I'm walking around the dirt lot behind it, and I'm like, dude, I got cancer. And at this time, I'm pretty sure his grandma had cancer. And I remember telling him, I'm like, no, like, it's going to be good. Like, this is going to be a good thing for me. So I'm super overcompensating, but I really did want to initially just overcome it and grow from it and learn from it right off the bat. And I probably did it in such an extreme way that I was delusional, but that was the route I was taking. I'd rather be delusional and joy than, miserable and sad and feeling bad for myself. So I remember talking to Luke, and he's like, dude, I think he thought I might die. I think that when I told Luke, like, he thought his best friend was going to die. So anyways, I told him what was going on. I went home. Woojin drove down. I checked in. I woke up at like 4. Checked into the surgery situation at 5. Had surgery at 6. Had surgery at 7. Okay, so now here's some funny things. So I go in and I'm like laying there, and they're doing the nurse situation and whatnot. 2 funny things happen. One, they come to like shave, they like shave like pubic area or whatever, where they make the incision in your hip. So they're marking it. I'm like, what are you marking? They're like, oh, we're gonna mark to make sure we know which is the right side. And I'm like, oh, thank God, make sure you mark it as the right. So they mark it as the right. I'm laying there. Dr. Kim comes in. Woojin and my mom are by my side. It's pretty early. And Dr. Kim comes in. He gives me the anesthesia, right? So then I'm rolling in, and I'm just like rolling in. And I remember, this is the last thing I remember before surgery. So keep in mind, I had just been diagnosed literally like 18 hours before. Next morning, I'm in surgery going to get my right boy removed because I have cancer. I have testicular cancer, right? So I'm rolling in. And I'm like, this is just like the movies. And the doctor goes, it's better than the movies. This is real life. And I'm like, some things are better than the movies. And then I went in, had the surgery, wore drop crotch Rick shorts and sandals, and rolled out of there. Like 4 hours later, the first thing I remember was talking to the lady about Korean barbecue and talking about Woojin. Right, I was telling her about how we go get Korean barbecue. And I drove home that day. And that's basically the diagnosis process. I'm going to save the rest of it for another section because it's way too much to spiel out at once. But what I can reflect on is that I was very afraid, crying at times, laying in bed, like crying to Woojin, I don't want to have cancer. I got a false sense of hope from the doctor when he told me I was okay. See, I believed that I was okay, but really I was sick the whole time. And what an incredible message that is, that you can believe that you're okay and really be sick. You can think you're doing good stuff and really be extremely sick inside, whether it be spiritually or physically, You can fool yourself and believe what other people tell you and really be a sick person. I prayed a lot out of fear when I first started, praying, Lord, I pray that I don't have this. I pray that I don't have this. I pray that I don't have this. And but now I realize that I started praying more out of faith as I learned I had it and began treatment and so forth. But that was basically the intro of how I did it. And I have no clue if there's anyone on the other side of the phone watching this right now, because I don't know what the live number situation is. It could be 0. But I do have some questions that some people asked me, because I reached out and asked if anyone wanted to send me questions. And so I got those questions here. If I can find them in the phone. 1 second. Kakao Talk. Okay, here we go. So, What was your initial response, thoughts to your diagnosis? Well, I told you, I just passed out. Even though I kind of knew or believed and was getting scared that I had it, when I was really confronted with it, I passed out. Even when you really think you have something, somewhere deep in your mind, you still think you're like invincible and that it couldn't happen to you. It's a lot of fear when it happened to you. It's just not going to happen to me. Did you feel like you had to put up a stronger facade to protect your loved ones? I'm not sure if I felt like that, but I do think I automatically went into that mode because that's kind of my style, is just to be hyper positive, hyper energetic, very enthusiastic and positive. So I don't know if that was a feeling, a conscious decision where I was like, I gotta really pitch this to him, like I'm gonna do it. But I think I just kind of did that naturally. And then as I went through, I was always, rejoice in the Lord in all things, and again I say rejoice. I was always trying to rejoice. I got up on stage at one time and told my church that even though I'm sick, I'm trying to be joyous. And that is true, though it didn't always happen in action. Next question here. And if anybody is watching and you have a question, just type it in and Woojin will let me know. But I'm going to answer these ones first. What were your first thoughts? My first thoughts were no thoughts because I just passed out. My following thoughts were, let's just get it over with, because I was so happy to know, or not even happy, but just relieved to know that, all right, I now have something to deal with. I have like a target, a goal, initiative. I can work towards overcoming this. Hanging out in that gray area of unknowing is very, very challenging. The waiting, shout out to Tom Penny, the waiting is the hardest part. Were you ever unsure about what route to take to fight the cancer? Allopathic medicine versus integrative alternative medicine? Did you do a combo? So I never really thought about... I actually have a friend who is battling breast cancer, and she's doing a full, I don't know what to call it. Let's call it organic, because I don't know what it's really called. But it seems to be working for her. I didn't even think about doing any of it, because like I said, I was diagnosed, and the doctor was like, let's have surgery the next day. And I had understood a little bit about the type of cancer that I had, so I decided, let's just get straight to it. I didn't consider, vitamin treatments or oxygen treatments or the variety of, less chemically insane cancer treatments. So I just went straight to the standard issue cancer treatment. And I think I would have done it the same if I did it again. When people found out, how did you want them to express love and empathy? That's a good question. I don't know. Oh, whoa, that is a good question. I don't know what I expected. But I was surprised by some of that I got. Not surprised by Woojin. Woojin was she's just rock solid no matter what the situation. Some people step up and others step out. Some people tell you that they'll pray for you or send you good vibes or whatever, and you never hear from them again. And then other people show up who you never would have thought show up and check on you regularly. One kid who did this was Austin Trout. Trout, if you're out there listening to me, we didn't really talk to each other for the longest time, but the second you found out I had cancer, you reached out to me all the time. So I don't know what my expectations were. I guess I had expectations for some people that, surpassed my expectations, and other people I had expectations for, and I guess they didn't fulfill my expectations. But that was a super good question. I don't know if I did a good job answering that one. Was there something you didn't want them to say or do? Not particularly. I guess I'm not big on being oh, I'm so sorry. I don't want any downer, depression, woe is me type situation, which I didn't really get. Obvious question. How did your faith play in with things? Okay, so faith was super revealing. I'm a Christian. I believe in Jesus Christ, and I pray to God regularly. I prayed more during my time having cancer than I ever prayed before. Prior to being diagnosed, I prayed out of fear because I was like, God, don't let me have this. God, don't let me have this. I'm afraid. I'm scared. I need you. Take it away. I don't want it. Finding out, I prayed out of faith. Lord, I trust in you. I believe you can pull me through this. And my church had a huge impact on that, along with the leadership of my pastors. Did it only get stronger? I think that it did get stronger, but I think faith definitely, it is what you put into it. You believe as much as you believe, and it does take action. So I think in some ways it grew significantly, and I have seen it ebb and flow in my own, day-to-day life, and through that time too. I remember, let me tell you something. Before you go in for a surgery that you don't know what's going to happen, you best believe that you spend a lot of time praying. And when you spend a lot of time praying, you build faith. So I think that it got stronger, and I rejoice in the Lord for the blessing of this challenge that I had, and that's why I want to share it with you. Do you have ups and downs? By the way, doubt and faith. Not so much doubt and faith. I never really doubted either that I would overcome it. I always believed that I would overcome it because the type of cancer I'd had, unless it gets to your brain, is highly, curable. So I knew, okay, I might have some serious surgeries and do a lot of chemo, but I'm going to get through it. It's just a matter of suffering. Sorry, lots of questions. I have more, but I'll stop for now. Those were epic questions. Thank you. I don't know if it's cool to say who asked me the questions, but I'm just not going to because I didn't ask in the first place. So, are there any other questions over there? 3 questions. That's solid. Thanks for asking questions. Thanks for getting in on this friendship situation with me. All right, what is the first question, sweetheart?
You didn't ask, how did you stay positive?
How did I stay positive? That's something that I've cultivated over a long period of time with a variety of things. For one, Wujin is pointing to herself and dancing, so having the support of my bride is huge. Having faith in God that He works all things out for His glory. Having a church that supported me and prayed for me, having friends and family who supported me and prayed for me, and really cultivating my own mind by reading and, suggesting things to myself and reading things that I want to project in my life. I guess like self-suggestion. So that's how I did it. And it was super challenging, and I think a lot of times it was phony. But you kind of, when it comes to having energy and a smile on your face, you really do have to force it until it becomes natural. It's like lifting the weights. You lift the weights, you become strong, you smile a lot and pray and stay positive, and next thing you know, you're a happy, strong, faithful guy. All right, what's the next one?
Jordan asked, what made you think you had it?
What made me think I had it? Jordan who? Which Jordan are we dealing with right now? Cato, thanks for another question, Cato. I really appreciate your support on this early situation I'm on. Well, I had a lump on my testicle, right? I was digging around in there with my boys, and I'm like, I got some small, fingernail-sized, very small lump. And, as a man, or I guess as a lady, if you feel a lump in your boob, you're tripping, right? If you feel a lump on your testicle, you're tripping. So I was tripping, and then I just became so over the top. What would you call it? Anxious, hyper conscious, very sensitive about what's this thing doing? Is it getting bigger? Has it moved? What's happening? So, anyways, that's how I found out. And then, really, how I found out is Wujin was like, "Go to the doctor again. Go to the doctor again." So that's how I figured it out. And then the doctor told me. Okay, what is it?
She said, after the surgery, was it gone?
What? The testicle? Oh, yeah. The cancer? No, it spread. It went into my, so after, I'm going to get there. So that's like the next section of where I did chemo and had surgeries. But yeah, it did spread. It spread into my lower abdomen, and I'll share more with you about that. So yeah, I guess I got it a little late? I don't know. I guess if it's spread, it's not like early.
Yeah, not stage, like middle stage.
Middle stage. Regina says middle situation. You know, top, bottom, middle situation. Okay, what's the next one?
That's all.
That's all. No more questions. All right, well, that was the first part. That was about getting diagnosed, and I appreciate the questions. I'm going to do another part about doing chemo. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Chemo. And waiting and having a surgery and the meat of relationship activity that goes on in that time. So thank you. I'm super thankful that you did this with me. I appreciate you. And I'm glad that you're here at Friends with Julian. And also, live from the 405 is coming in hot. Wednesday, probably going to be a later show because I got some things to get done, but I'm absolutely checking in 9/18/19. That's going to be a Wednesday at Friends with Julian, live from the 405. All right. Thank you, guys. How do I stop this thing? End. And now.